Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress, and this is the Become a Calm Mama podcast. And today I'm going to talk about being value-led instead of child-led. So I'm going to give you the difference between value-led parenting and child-led parenting. And the reason why this is important is because oftentimes as a parent, you're going to be faced with decisions and you might not be clear about what you should do. Like, should your child continue this friendship? Should you encourage it? You don't get to control your kid's friendship, but should you encourage it? Should your child go to this kind of camp or this kind of camp? This is a really helpful thing also to keep in mind when you have resistance because you've set a boundary, because you've said no, like, no, I don't do sleepovers, or no, I don't do video games, or no, we're doing a digital detox this summer, or no, we're not going to the beach after all, or the lake or the pool. If you tell your child no, they are going to have big feelings about it. And you then may start to question yourself of like, oh, did I make a good decision? My child's very upset by this. Was I being impulsive? Should I give in? Should I not? And what I've noticed with a lot of parents is that it's very easy to make that emotional decision in the moment and give in to your child because you are feeling uncomfortable. Like, well, why did I say no? Why don't we do play dates? Other people do. Why do I have these screen time rules? My child is complaining about them. And you may feel emotionally upset and uncomfortable because your child's resistance creates that discomfort. And it might lead you to give in. Now, I am not going to tell you that giving in is wrong necessarily. But I want you to be clear about why you are giving in. Do you have a very good reason? And in this conversation today, I want your reason to be led by your values, by the things that are important to you, by the things that your family has decided or you have decided are important to you. So on last week's episode, I talked to you about how to create a values system or statement for your family and walked you through. It's really simple, really. It's just kind of writing out what is important to you and what your values are. In my family, kindness is a high value. Resilience is a high value. Honesty is a high value. That's part of integrity. Curiosity, compassion, joy, fun. So I have this value system that I'm working within, and it can be a little nebulous. It can be a little vague. You don't have to drill it down to the very, very core specifics. This conversation today is more about how you might feel when you are making a decision or you're setting up a boundary, or you're saying to your children, we go to bed at 8, and then your child's like, I want to go to bed at 8:30. And you have a high value for sleep, and you have a high value for staying in a sleep habit and a good rhythm, and you want your kids to have a good, healthy, strong body. Now, of course, everyone wants that. But what if you also have a high value for connection, and you have a partner who comes home from work really late, and you want to encourage that relationship? You may need to change up your limits and your routines in order to accommodate your value. And some people might look at that and say like, well, don't let your kids go to bed that late. That's wrong. But if you know why you're doing it, you're going to have a lot more clarity within yourself of why you do the things you do. One major example of this from my life is that my husband and I had decided early on that we wanted a play-based childhood. We wanted our children to have a lot of time for creativity, and that meant a lot of time for boredom. And so we wanted to facilitate an environment where our kids were bored so that they would be kind of pushed into finding something to do. And we wanted to create space for them to be creative. We wanted their brains to develop in a healthy way. We wanted to create as child-focused home as we could, childhood-focused, not child-led. And what that meant was that I had a very strong boundary about when my kids could play video games, like on a console or on a desktop. And it was 12 years old for Lincoln and 10 years old for Sawyer. I had to split that in the middle. I felt like around 10 or 11 was about the right age, but I knew that the minute one of them did it, the other one was going to do it. And so the youngest for me I was comfortable with was 10. So Lincoln had to wait a lot of years, and he was very upset by it. He really didn't like it. He didn't think it was fair. He was one of the oldest in his class. And so he was, hanging out with kids who were younger than him and had privileges that he didn't have. And he was frustrated by it. But my values made it possible for me to hold that line and hold that boundary, because I knew that the thing that I was going towards, the long-term vision I had for my kids, was important to me. And I wanted that to be true for them. And so I had that boundary. Now, if I were child-led, then I might end up giving in, because I would be focused on his relationship to his peers. I would be focused on his relationship to me. If I wanted my child to like me and I wanted him to be friends with me, it would be harder for me to set value-based limits. It would be harder for me to hold those boundaries if I felt like his emotions and that his attachment to me was going to be threatened by these decisions. So that's a quick example to show you how your child is going to not necessarily agree with your values and the limits that you have that support those values. They will have feelings about them, and they will want you to go against your own value system, your own integrity, and give in to them. Another example could be maybe you don't believe that children should wear high-end clothing, or you have a value for more sustainable clothes and you don't want to be someone who participates in fast fashion or constantly buying the next new thing, whether that's fashion or toys or whatever it is, that you have a value around sustainability and you have a value around quality and you have a value around, using the things you have and not so much consumerism. Now that is a very strong value for you, and your child is going to want stuff, right? They're going to compare themselves to their peers. They're going to look at what so-and-so has, and they're going to ask for it. And then you're going to have to say no because it doesn't align with the values that you have. And that is going to create a rub, a resistance, a tension. And if you're child-led, you're going to want to give in so that your child feels good, that your child feels good about you, that you're letting your child decide what they're doing, what they're getting, how they're acting, instead of you deciding what the boundaries are and teaching your children how to, of course, a boundary, no one likes a boundary. They push against that. Limits are challenging for kids. But when you push against that limit, and you have it be based on your values and you hold that, your children sort of rub up against that value, and that friction that they feel is good for them. That friction and then overcoming that feeling and shifting emotion and moving on and adjusting and accepting, that's part of resilience. Pivoting and being able to be emotionally flexible is part of resilience. So what I'm seeing in the parenting world is there's a lot of child-led parenting happening, and I'm not judging it. I understand it, because a lot of us have heard over the years, the last 10 years especially, even really specifically the last 5 years, that we need to validate our kids' feelings, that our kids' feelings matter, and they do, and we do need to validate them. But often what parents are confused about is, are we supposed to give in to those feelings? If your child is sad that they are not playing a lot, like they're not getting picked to play on the team, or they didn't get picked to be the lead performer in the dance routine, or some kind of structure-based resistance in the system that you're in, maybe they weren't chosen to be star of the week or whatever it is going on in their lives, and then they start to say, well, I don't want to go anymore. I'm not going. I refuse. Well, we want our values to be underneath that. If we have a commitment to integrity and we have a commitment to showing up when we say we're going to do something and following through and developing work ethic and developing resilience, if those are our values and our child is saying, oh, I don't want to do that, I want to give up, I want to quit because this is uncomfortable for me, If we give them that out and we let them quit and we let them, because of their feelings, we let them decide what's going to happen, what ends up happening is they miss out on a beautiful opportunity, one, to grow in your value system, to understand why it's important to you. Values are more of a lived experience. You have to live out your values in order to understand what they mean and why they're important. And so when you allow your child that experience to overcome their discomfort and move through in a values-based limit, and you hold that boundary, you say, no, you're going to continue to go until the end of the season, because this is our family value is commitment. Our family value is integrity. Our family value is showing up for our teams, like sportsmanship. So you can say, these are our values, and so we're going to continue to do this. Even if you're uncomfortable, I believe in you. I know you can handle it. And then your child goes and does that hard thing. You're not being permissive. You're being firm. With tons of love and tons of compassion, but still firm with the boundary. And you hold your child to it. They go and they learn about themselves that they can handle hard things. You know, Glennon Doyle's always like, we can do hard things. We can do hard things. We have to actually do them, though. We can't just say it. We have to let our kids have opportunities to do that, to do the hard thing. Now, sometimes child-centered, child-led parenting is called horizontal attachment. It's instead of a vertical attachment between you and your child where you are the guide, you're the mentor, you're the adult, you're the parent, you're the leader. In a vertical attachment, there is a hierarchy. I don't like to think of it that way because everyone's emotions matter, but as the adult, you are the wiser person. I am glad that 7-year-olds don't rule the world. It's a good thing because they're impulsive and they don't know a lot about time and money and the future and relationships, and they don't really understand their value system yet, right? They're not supposed to be in charge. Children are not supposed to be in charge, and they instinctively know that. Deep down inside of them, they know that they're little. They know they don't understand how an ATM card works. Like Apple Pay, that's magic to them. They know that they don't get it. And so then when we are permissive and we move into a horizontal parenting where we are on the same level in terms of decision-making power, it actually creates insecurity for our child. They feel uncomfortable. They feel nervous. It makes an insecure attachment. You're trying to create a secure, strong, trustworthy attachment with your kid where you're saying like, I've got you. I'm the adult. I have your best interest in mind. I'm real smart. I'm really good at being a grown-up. You can trust me. If you have that relationship with your child and then they give opportunity for them to trust you, they will feel safer. So on the surface, it looks like children want to be in charge. But actually what they want is they want to figure out where the boundaries are and push up on them. And as I'm saying this, like I know this is a podcast, but I'm like shaking my shoulders, like a sweater that's too tight or something. Like your kids kind of need to be pushed up against a boundary and then have that resistance. If you give in, if the boundary is porous and they just get what they want, they get to not go to school, they get to quit, they get to not go to birthday parties, all of these decisions that they make, they are missing an opportunity to grow in your values, to trust you, and to build resilience. What we're seeing in parenting, not just me, but other professionals, that this child-centered horizontal attachment, this child-led parenting or feelings-led parenting, is leading to actually a self-esteem crisis with kids. We are seeing increased anxiety. Now, of course, we have the anxious generation and comments about social media and the phone, and all of that is valid and true. But really, what we want is for our kids to grow in their ability to handle discomfort. And if we don't have strong boundaries, our children aren't given the opportunity to handle that discomfort, to grow through it, to realize that they can handle it, to pivot through emotion. I can validate an emotion. I can say, yes, you're sad. That is totally valid. And sadness is temporary. When you recognize an emotion, you acknowledge it and you allow for it, the brain and the body will shift through to a different emotion. That's kind of where resilience comes from. It's like a mindset and an emotional regulation piece where I have this discomfort, I have this sadness, and then the mind and the body work together to move through that negative emotion, release it, and then pivot using different thoughts. And you've seen this with your kids where you're holding a firm boundary. You're going to baseball practice, you're going to dance, you're going to school, you're still going to the birthday party. We said we were going, right? If you are holding that boundary and your child believes that you're true because you've held many boundaries before, you can watch them go, and they're crying, they're frustrated, and they maybe say, this is stupid, I don't like you, this is dumb, you never listen to me. Or they're littler and they just cry and they throw things and they, pick on their brother and they, spit or whatever. Or maybe they're a little bit older and they just kind of go, and they go to their room and they slam the door. Most kids, especially if you haven't been a permissive parent, will then pivot internally. Wait for that pivot. Trust that pivot. Trust their emotional regulation is available to them. Trust that their nervous system can calm itself and reset itself. And what you'll see is a kid go, okay, fine, I'll go, but I'm not going to put my cleats on right now. Okay, you can put them on when we get there. Okay, fine, I'll go, but I'm not putting my hair in a bun. Okay, no problem. Their mind will figure out a way to get a little bit of power back, a little bit of comfort back, a little bit of negotiation just so that they can feel a little bit okay. Or they'll come back and be like, you know what? I don't mind going because I know that I'm going to see my friend. Their brain will pivot. It's so amazing. You can trust that. Now you can guide your child a little bit, but don't rush to give them at least and soothe them by promises. And like, if you go, we'll give you ice cream afterwards. Like, don't bribe, don't promise, don't try to shift that emotion too fast. Validating an emotion is allowing for it, letting it sit, letting the nervous system catch up to itself, work itself out. We work our nervous system out through our body, right? Through moving our body, like with a rhythmic way is really the best way to move through big feelings. Through relationship, right? Getting a little bit of oxytocin and possibly a little bit of dopamine, which isn't like go to your phone and ding, ding, ding. It's a little bit like getting a task and going to do something. Like, okay, hey, listen, I know you're upset, but we're going to leave once you have grabbed your water bottle. So you give your kid a little task, they go get their water bottle, and the brain resets itself. So the brain resets itself through rhythm, reward, and relationship. It's pretty cool if you believe it and you trust it. Now, what happens to us as the parent is we feel really uncomfortable with their big feeling cycle. We don't trust their ability to manage their feelings. Now, if you're the parent and you don't trust them, and they're the kid and they don't know if they can handle it, that's going to make it a lot harder for them, and they're going to have more and more and more big feelings. So the pivot for you, the mindset for you is going, this is temporary. Remember when I teach big feeling cycle, I talk about it with the word cycle because I want you to know it has a beginning, middle, and end. Observe your child. Watch their big feeling cycle because they will go through a big feeling cycle and then they will come to a resolution. Now, a lot of times your boundary creates that big feeling cycle. And then you validate that feeling and you think, well, I've caused this big feeling because of my boundary. You didn't cause it. It's just true. When people have boundaries, they have feelings. Feelings are normal. Feelings pass. There's no problems with feelings. But I want your kids to learn how to deal with those feelings without trying to bypass them by giving in, by you being permissive. You may be bypassing their negative emotion, and then they miss the opportunity to process that emotion and learn how to deal with it. In life, there are so many difficulties. There are so many times that our plans change. It rains on our picnic, right? We think we're going to have something and it doesn't happen. Or we have this plan to buy a new couch, but then the hot water whatever it's called, tank breaks, and we have to buy a new one. And now we have to wait because we can't buy the thing that we thought we were going to buy. Like, that's a part of life, is having emotional upset. And when you teach your kids when they're little how to deal with that emotional upset, they are going to be emotionally healthy long term. When we are child-led and child-centered instead of value-led, value-centered, we miss that opportunity for our children to grow. The other thing that ends up happening is because your child doesn't know whether you're going to be permissive or not, whether you're going to change your mind or not, that they will stay in that negotiation longer because the boundary does not appear to them as firm. So if you're just kind of starting boundary work with your kids, you know you've been permissive, you know you've been rescuing, you've been child-led, there's no problem. You get to be the leader of your home at any point. You are always able to become the leader in your family. You've gone from child-led to values-led or child-led to parent-led. When you become parent-led, when you become values-led, what ends up happening is your child doesn't believe it. So you change. You're like, I'm staying strong. I'm staying committed to this boundary. They are still going, to whatever it is, or we're still committed, or, they're whatever the routine is or the limit that you've created. Like, this is how it's going to be. I'm no longer making 5 different meals at dinner. This is our new boundary and value. We're having one meal, family-led meal, eating one thing, right? I'm going to offer healthy food, and the children are going to have, this is their option. Okay, so say you decide that. Your child is going to go through all their resistance strategies. They're going to complain. They're going to insult you. They're going to compare to others. They're going to whine. They might start bothering their sibling. They're going to try to get you to change the boundary, not because they're manipulative, not because they're entitled, not because they're jerks, but because they don't believe that they can handle the discomfort of not getting what they want. So when you believe that they can handle it, you believe first, you hold space, they eventually learn they can. And over a couple of boundaries, a couple of nights of not giving everybody their own dinner, a couple of nights of firm bedtime, a couple of times of going to do the hard thing even when you don't want to, your child will learn, oh, she's serious. He's serious. It's not fear to believe that someone has values and will stand by them. I don't need to be afraid in order to have respect. I don't need to be afraid in order to trust that my parent does what they say they're going to do. This is not a fear-based model. I've never taught a fear-based model. I teach against a fear-based model. This is a logic-based model where feelings are validated, but boundaries are real. And our boundaries are based on our values, not on power, not on manipulation, not on control. Our boundaries are based on our values. If you notice that you have boundaries that are based not in your values, they are just to manipulate or punish your kids or hurt them or something, then take a look at that and you can change your boundaries. So for some of you listening, you might need to change your permissiveness, your giving inness. Some of you might have a very strong sense of boundary, but you don't validate emotion. You want to shut it down. Some of you have boundaries that don't make any sense, that aren't aligned. They're not developmentally appropriate for your child. They're there almost to keep you in control. That could be because of your own anxiety. So looking at yourself and going, am I overly permissive? Am I overly rigid? Or am I not making space to validate feelings while still holding boundaries? It is complicated sometimes when you want to be firm and you want to hold that leadership energy to understand how to validate emotion. It can be a little bit confusing because a lot of us think if we validate emotion, then that means that we should give in. So a lot of us don't even want to validate the emotion. Some of us validate, give in. Some of us don't validate and stay firm. And some of us are overly rigid and our boundaries are not aligned with our actual values. So take a look at yourself and figure out maybe where your error is and course correct a little bit. So like I said, the downsides of child-centered parenting, child-led parenting is that the kids aren't resilient. that there's a leadership vacuum, so the children will fill it. That creates insecurity for them. And then when they are insecure, they may be defiant. They may be hyperactive. They may be stubborn or obsessive. They might be cliquishness or gang up on you, like with their siblings or their friends. They might be over apologetic or people pleasing. So we don't want our children to have maladaptive strategies to cope with negative emotion. We want to give them opportunities to have negative emotion, like life, because life is pain, highness. Anyone who tells you otherwise is selling you something. That's from The Princess Bride. I think about it all the time. Like, it's inevitable that our children are going to have frustrating and hard things because life is full of hard and frustrating things. And so we want to give our kids that chance to experience that emotion and learn really healthy strategies to cope with that emotion. Now, of course, being child-led and feelings-led is a short-term solution. It can create short-term ease. It can give you that perceived feeling of being liked or being loved by your child. Like you're really strict and then you give in and they're like, oh, thank you, mommy. That's so nice. You're so nice. And that might feed into some kind of insecurity you have. Be aware of that. If you are permissive every once in a while, who cares? Okay, it's fine. You say, you're not going. And then they're like, and you're like, I can't deal with this. Fine, you're not going. Or you're like, you're going. And they're like, and then you're like, okay, fine. You're not going. It's fine. If that happens, don't judge yourself. If it's a 1 off, 2 off, 10 off, it's fine. But if you find yourself in a pattern of permissiveness, if you find yourself in a pattern of child-led parenting, recognize you're not helping your child long-term. So what's really cool if you are value-centered and you are, relating and bonding with your children, but not giving up on being the grown-up. You have those limits and boundaries and you hold them. Of course, there's going to be tension. And that short-term discomfort that you have between you and your child, it is worth it. So there is a downside to it. It's harder to be values-led in the short term. But the more you do it, especially if you have younger kids and you are firm but kind, your children will know, oh, she's serious. Oh, he's serious. And they will be less likely to try to change the circumstance. And then you're in a situation where you're just helping them cope with their negative emotion. That whole negotiation thing, some kids can't always do it. And that's their strategy for coping. But for most kids, that isn't a strategy for coping. It's an actual strategy to change the circumstance so that they can get what they want so they'll feel better. And I want you to understand, if you just hold that boundary and keep trusting, they will feel better. They will get over it. You don't need to do much in order for them to get over it. You can trust their nervous system and their brain. So when you do this, your children will become more resilient. They will feel safer with you, which means they will be less stressed, which means you will have less bad behavior. They will know their place in the world. Children want to believe I belong and I'm safe. And when they know how the world works and they know how to fit within those boundaries, they will feel better about themselves. They'll say, I can handle life. I know how it works and I can handle it. They're better behaved at school. They learn more. They sleep better, right? There's so many beautiful benefits to being value-led. And I do want to recognize, of course, it can be hard. And it's a process. You don't have to be perfect at all with parenting. It does really matter, like aggregate, like long term. So if you think of the course of 6 months or 5 months or 4 months, like if you were to join the Calm Mama Club and get some support, and within 3 months, we would look at like, where are you at? How often are you permissive? When you're permissive, why? And looking for less and less of that permissive parenting, less and less of that punishment-based parenting, less and less of not validating your kids, not compassionate parenting. I'm just looking for you to improve by very slight increments. And really the pathway to improvement is always awareness. So for this week, I want you to be looking at, when you set a boundary, do you hold it? When you're holding it, do you validate your kid's feelings? When you don't hold it, why? That's it. Observe yourself, take a look, and figure out how you handle your boundaries. And that will help you understand if you're values-led or child-led. And as always, I'm here to help you on your parenting journey. You can join the Calm Mama Club. It's $30 a month. You can join at any time, quit anytime. There's no minimum requirement or anything like that. So you can come, join, see if you like it. We meet on Tuesday mornings at 9:30 Pacific. There's usually like 5 to 7 people there. And I try to coach as many moms as I can. And we have some dads who come. And it's a really beautiful community. We just talk about parenting in a loving, safe environment. People share really openly, and I'd love to have you in there. So you can join on the website, calmmamacoaching.com. You can join the club there. Or if you want to work with me one-on-one, you can schedule a complimentary consultation, and I'll talk to you about working with me one-on-one. I do a 6-week minimum when I work with clients privately, if you want to know what that's like. If you are just curious, you want to talk to me, you can also book a consultation. I love meeting people who love the podcast. I love talking to you. I like to get to know you. I like to find out what podcast you loved and how it's changing your life. I love to hear all that. So you're always welcome to book a consultation. Hop on my calendar. You and I will just meet on Zoom. You get to say hi to me. It's really fun. And I'd love that. I love meeting all you mamas. Okay, this week, be gentle with yourself as you kind of explore whether you're child-led or values-led. And I will talk to you next week. Hey mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do 2 things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.